Okay, so once again, the topic for today is very interesting because you are doing your chapter 1 to 3. Since you are non-thesis student, so our institutions require you to develop your chapter 1 to 3. So up to the methodology. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it is very important for us to determine some guidelines which provide us with essential information about how to prepare and submit this thesis or dissertation in format acceptable to the graduate school. And the topics range from the writing style to completion or required forms. And actually, in some university, there are certain payments for the thesis. So there is distinct difference between submitting a manuscript to a publisher and providing a completed thesis or dissertation to the graduate school. A manuscript represents a pre-publication format. A thesis or a dissertation is a final, completely edited, published documents. Students should use some guidelines, not other style manuals. As the final authority on issues of the format and style, areas not covered in the document or deviation from any other specification should be within the graduate school format. So again, most commonly, the common format is the abstract. We have the preliminary actually. So cover the title page, copyright, dedication, acknowledgement, preface, table of content, list of table, list of figures, list of abbreviation, and so on and so forth. I think for us to give us more details about the thesis and dissertation format, let us all welcome our presenter, Madam Margaret.
Good day. I will be reporting thesis and dissertation format. The contents of my report would be the definition of thesis and dissertation, the basic concerns, documentation, thesis and dissertation structure, and order of writing. To avoid confusion and understand the similarity or difference between these two documents, here is a side-by-side presentation in the Philippine setting. A thesis will earn a student an undergraduate or graduate degree. It is an academic research paper with the purpose of testing a student's understanding of one's field of study. The principle behind it is a compilation of research that proves one is knowledgeable about the information learned throughout the undergraduate or graduate program. With a dissertation, a student earns a doctorate degree. It is an academic book, and its purpose is to come up with a subject in his or her field that hasn't already been researched. This is an opportunity during a doctorate program to contribute new knowledge, theories, or practices to one's field. The point is to come up with an entirely new concept, develop it, and defend its worth. Apart from the binding and the number of copies, here are surprisingly basic items which concerns the students. First is the font. It is best to use standard type fonts which look good and are readable both on paper and computer screen. Never a script font. Italics are appropriate for book and journal titles, foreign terms, and scientific terminology. Boldface may be used within the text for emphasis and or for headings and subheadings, but use both in moderation. The next is the font size. The recommended size is 12 point for all texts, including titles and subheadings. The margins. The recommended top, bottom, and left side margins are 1.5 inches, and for the marginal space at the right side is 1 inch. Then we have the paper size. Original prints and photocopies should be on 8.5 by 11 inches bond paper. Paging or pagination. The title page is assigned number 1. That is a Roman numeral, lowercase, but the number does not appear on the page. Now, the blank pages are not assigned any number. All other pages should have a page number centered at the bottom of the page. Now, the text or the body of the thesis or dissertation, appendices, and bibliography are assigned Arabic numbers with the first page of chapter 1 as page 1. Then succeeding pages are numbered consecutively up to the appendices. The spacing. In general, use double spacing throughout except in the following cases. 3 spaces separate paragraphs and main topic titles from subtopics or paragraphs. Single spacing is used in quotations of 5 or more lines. 2 spaces to separate paragraphs. Footnotes are single-spaced. Title or headings of tables and illustrations, if written in 2 lines, are single-spaced. For the indentation, always indent the first line of each paragraph. The number schemes. Chapters may be identified with uppercase Roman numerals or Arabic numbers. Tables, figures, and equations should be numbered consecutively throughout the manuscript with Arabic numerals. Equation numbers should be placed to the right of the equation and contained within parentheses or brackets. For quotation, single marks and close quotations within quotations of not more than 5 lines. Double marks and close quotations within quotations of more than 5 lines. 3 spaced periods are used in place of words omitted within a quotation. A whole line of spaced periods is used to take the place of 1 or more paragraphs omitted, and 4 spaced periods take the place of an omission at the end of a sentence. The footnotes. Footnotes are single-spaced and must be placed at the end of the page of the material to which it refers. Formatting and numbering of footnotes are generally built in most word processing softwares, but footnotes is not acceptable in Harvard style of writing. Lastly are the numbers in the text. As a rule, numbers under 100 are spelled out, except when a number, whether 100 and over or not, starts a sentence, it is always spelled out. Arabic numerals are used for page numbers, dates, amounts of money, and percent. But if the largest number in a series of numbers in one sentence contains 3 or more numerals, use figures for all instead. The third part of my report is the documentation. Some forms or documentation will be incorporated in the thesis or dissertation, such as the following: thesis permission page, letter of endorsement by the thesis or dissertation advisor, approval sheet, the dissertation committee, the oral defense panel, and the biographical data for dissertation only. The next part of my report is the thesis and dissertation structure. The order on how items or sections shall be presented is usually provided by the school or the advisor. Nonetheless, a thesis or dissertation in terms of structure must have the following: the title page, abstract, acknowledgement, table of contents, the list of tables, figures, maps, pictures, appendices, abbreviations, and acronyms, followed by the text of the thesis or the dissertation, the bibliography, and lastly is the appendices if there is any. The title page. The title page must include the following: the title of the thesis or dissertation, the name of the author, the college to which the thesis or dissertation is submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the degree, and the date of approval of the dissertation or the thesis. The abstract page. The abstract page explains in one line why the paper is important. It then goes on to give a summary of the major results. The final sentences explain the major implications of the work. It should be concise, readable, and quantitative, and must not be more than 2.5 pages. The abstracts generally do not have citations. The information in the title should not be repeated. The abstract should give answers to the questions below. What did you do? Why did you do it? What question were you trying to answer? How did you do it? State the methods. What did you learn? State the major results. And why does it matter? Point out at least one significant implication. The tip is, the abstract page must be done after the entire paper is complete. Now here is an example of the acknowledgement page. The acknowledgement page is to recognize the help and guidance the writer received in preparing the paper. The table of contents. This includes the title of the paper at the very top, followed by the chapter names and subtitles in chronological order. At the end of each line is the page number of the corresponding headings. So these two are examples of the table of contents page. Here are some pointers for the list of tables, list of figures, list of maps, list of pictures or illustrations page. The heading must be all in capital letters centered 1 inch below the top of the page. Include one double spaced line between the heading and the first entry. Each entry must include a number, title, and page number. Assign each table, figure, or illustration in their thesis or dissertation an Arabic numeral. You may number consecutively throughout the entire work. For example, figure 1, figure 2, table 1, table 2, and etc. Followed by a second number to indicate its consecutive placement in the chapter. For example, table 3.2 is the second table in chapter 3. Include one double-spaced line between each entry. Lastly, the numbers, titles, and page numbers must each match the corresponding numbers, titles, and page numbers appearing in the thesis or dissertation. Here are examples of the list of tables, list of figures, list of maps, and list of pictures or illustrations pages. List of appendices. Appendix is a section at the end of a thesis or dissertation that contains supplementary information. It may contain figures, tables, raw data, and other additional information that supports the arguments of your dissertation but do not belong to the main body. If more than one, list the appendices as how tables, figures, or illustrations are listed. List of abbreviations and acronyms. Include the heading List of Abbreviations, all in capital letters, and center it 1 inch below the top of the page. Include one double-spaced line between the heading and the first entry, and arrange your abbreviations alphabetically. Now we have the text or body of the thesis or dissertation. This is what we call the chapters, 1, 2, and etc. The thesis or dissertation must be divided into chapters. The use of sections or parts in addition to chapters is acceptable. So we can have introduction, the methods, the results, the discussion, conclusions, and the recommendations for our chapters. On the right side is an example of the actual text or a body of a paper showing the first chapter as the introduction. Lastly, we have the bibliography. It lists down the written references and interviews, if there is any, used in the study. In general, these are presented by broad categories, including books, articles from journals, magazines, bulletins, pamphlets, and newspapers, official documents, and websites. So here is an example. Down to the last part of my report is the order of writing. Take note that the thesis or dissertation is not written in the same order as it is presented in. The following gives us an idea on how to proceed. First is to organize the paper as a logical argument before we begin writing. And second, make the figures to illustrate the argument. Third is to identify the main sections, the introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, and recommendation, followed by making an outline of the main elements like the sections and the subsections. And lastly is to begin writing, choosing options in the following hierarchy: paragraphs, sentences, and words. These are the only 3 materials I have referred from, 2 of which are within the Philippine setting. Allow me to leave you with a quote: "It always seems impossible until it's done," by Nelson Mandela. This is the end of the report. Thank you.
Okay,
Good.
thank you very much for a comprehensive discussions of the thesis and dissertation format. So I share it already on our group message, no, the thesis format, and at the same time, actually the abstract was not covered in our chapter 1 to 3, but based on the discussion of our presenters, the complete thesis format from chapter 1 to 3. So for those who are eyeing to continue your program into thesis writing, so this will be the common format for the thesis and dissertation writing. So thank you, presenter.